I've never done this before, so it's kind of odd. I am not used to filming or talking actually in front of a camera, so this will be fun. So I recently did like a wind-up Instagram post where I shared everything that I made in 2022. And putting it together was actually really fun, but I was finding it difficult to put all the detail that I wanted in the post because I wanted to talk so much about each item, and I didn't have space to like talk about my yarn choices and talk about the pattern and the things I liked or the things I didn't like. And I made a lot of garments and I didn't have room to talk about the fit or like the details of how I made them because I modified most of them from the original pattern. So I figured this would be a good way for me to get to share what I want to share about the things that I've made this year, and also not clog up somebody's Instagram feed with like 700, 800 words about all of my patterns and all of the things that I've made. So I figured I would split it into 2 categories to make it easier, and I'll try to split the video up into like each section so you can skip to what you're interested in if you are skipping. I know that I like to do that, so that's how I'll set it up. But I think that I'll start with accessories and then I'll go into garments. And I want to start first with hats. And everything in here is stuff that I've made for me. I've made lots of gifts this year, and I don't have access to most of them, and I didn't take pictures of all of them. So I want to kind of limit this to stuff I made for myself so I can talk about like how it wore, all the details about the yarn, all the details about the construction, how it's kept up, you know, all of that. So I'm going to start with hats. And this is, I think, the first hat I made this year. And there's still an end that I haven't woven in on the inside that I just tuck up every time I wear it because that's just how it is sometimes. But this is the Easy Beanie by Brandy Cheyenne Harper. I really, really like this pattern. This is like my favorite go-to gift knit beanie pattern, basically, because it has this really nice little like 3-prong detail on the decreases for the top of the hat. And I really like the way it looks. I think that it's almost masculine, which I like. It works really well for hats that I make for men, especially because the pattern comes in a lot of different sizes. But I made this right at the beginning of the year because I made my first Easy Beanie, and I liked it so much that I wanted to make another one in a blue because I wear a lot of blue. And I thought it would be more neutral than the other one that I made last year, which is a dark brown, and it's made with, the one I made last year was a chunkier yarn. The pattern calls for a DK, and that yarn was definitely a worsted. So it's really, really tight and really, really warm, and I wanted this one to be a little bit lighter. So for this one, I used one of my favorite yarns ever, Plymouth Yarns Hearthstone, in whatever the blue is. I think it might be Bluestone actually. But I did that for this, and then since it's only a sport, I held it double with some drops mohair. I held it together with Drops Kid Silk in the color Blue Opal, maybe? And it's a super nice hat. I actually wear it probably more than my other one now. Because of the silk mohair, it tends to tangle my hair less. Just because the other hat is, I think it's a Cordale wool. And it's really dry, and it can pick up my hair and make it really frizzy. And I found that with this less of an issue because of the silk in the silk mohair. It doesn't quite catch the way the other hat does. So it's gotten a ton of wear. It's nice and warm. It's super light. My only gripe with it is that I made it a little bit too short. My other hat is super, super slouchy. I made it really, really long. I have a ton of pictures of it on my Instagram if you want to go see it. But it's super long and it's super slouchy, and I really love the fit of it. And this one, here, I can put it on. It's not that big. Like, I have a little bit of slouch back here, but it's not much. And I wish I had made it a little bit longer, and I wish I had made the brim a little bit tighter. For some reason, this one came out kind of flared at the bottom here, you can see. And it doesn't fit snugly like I would like it to. I like most of my beanies to come in quite a bit at the end. And this one doesn't, even though I made it the same way I made my other one, and the other one fits me great. So I don't know if that's just because it's stretched out because of the yarn. I don't know if I did the brim a little bit looser than I should have. Maybe I should have gone down to the needle size. But yeah, it's gotten a ton of wear. It's held up awesome. Both Hearthstone and drops for me hold up great. Like, it has basically no pilling. I haven't done anything to it. I think I've only washed it twice, and it still holds up great. Yeah, it looks like it's brand new. So that's been awesome this year. And then my other big hat for the year was my Positivity beanie that I test knit for Knits when she first released it. It was my first ever test knit, and I was absolutely thrilled to get to do it. Like, I did nothing but knit on this for like a couple of weeks because I ended up having to redo it a bunch of times. But I loved it. So this is, again, the Positivity beanie by Knits. I really like it. I used, well, this is a storied beanie because I knit it the first time when I first started doing it. I picked a different yarn for the faces. I know I wanted to do the black as the base because I'd wanted a black beanie for a while. But I have this super neon orange, super neon yellow and green and orange yarn. It's awesome. And I thought it would be really great with this pattern because it would be really cool, like these neon faces on this black backdrop. I thought it'd be really striking. And I swatched with it. And I swatched with it a couple of times, and it just didn't have enough contrast because there was black in the yarn. So it would be kind of faded and not super defined. So I was sad about that. And I went through basically all of the fingering I own, and picked out everything that I thought would work with the pattern. Because there was a deadline, and because I'd never tested it before, I was really nervous about ordering new yarn for this pattern. I was really worried that it wasn't going to get here in time, and I wouldn't finish in time. Because it's a color work pattern. It's my first ever test knit. It's a double knit brim, which are notoriously difficult for me. I really struggle with double knit brims. And I'm a really slow knitter. Like, I'm not very fast. So I was really nervous that if I didn't pick something from Stash, it wasn't going to get done. So I ended up going with this Oaken Fiber. It's Old Sweet Shop is the colorway on their Cashmerino base. It's a great yarn. I really love it. But I do wish I had gone with something a little bit more high contrast because I feel like it ended up being a little bit muddy. The color work did. Like, if it were up to me now, if I were ever going to knit this again, I would do it in a different color. But I still love it. I wear it constantly. It's gotten a ton of use. It's held up really well. There's a bit of pilling right around the top here. On the Cashmerino, because it's Cashmerino and cashmere pills. But it's held up really well. The black yarn is actually from one of my favorite indie dyers that isn't dyeing anymore, which makes me really sad. And it's Just a Girl and Her Dog Yarns. Her name is Robin. On her, I think it's her yak sock base. But it's held up great. It's super warm and super light. I really love it. The sun just went away. But yeah, it's been great. It's gotten a ton of wear. It's nice and long. It's a little bit too long for me. If I were to knit it again, I think I would either make it long enough that it slouches or get rid of one of the repeats of the faces. Because I find that it's just a little bit awkwardly long. Like, I can pull it all the way over my ears and I still have a bit of excess fabric at the top. So I would have either done another repeat of that pattern of the smiley faces, or I would have omitted one of the rows. But yeah, I really love the way it turned out. It was great for getting me into test knitting. It was super fun to make, like all of the good things. I really enjoyed making it. And my float work for this beanie is awesome. It's beautiful. Look at that. Perfect. So let's move on to mittens. I only made one pair of mittens this year, but they've gotten a huge amount of wear. These are the Moorland mitts. Oh, and I don't remember the designer's name. I'll put it on the screen somewhere. These are the Moorland mitts. I made these at the very end of spring last year. So I live in Colorado. Spring here is notoriously cold. Like, we get most of our snowfall in March. So I was freezing, as you are in spring in Colorado, especially when I was driving, because I drive a stick shift, and my gear shift would be super cold in the mornings when I would go to work. And a bunch of people on my Instagram made these, and I felt really inspired by this pattern to make it. So it's this really, really pretty, like, twisted stitch detail, and then these little leaf things, which were a really interesting, it's really interesting how you make them. I had never done this kind of a stitch pattern before, and I really, really enjoyed making them. And they worked up really quickly, really, really, really quickly, and I would have gotten them done faster if I hadn't had to take a lot of breaks. I found that the yarn that I chose was really thick. So I just made these with Patton's wool. I don't even know what it's officially called. I think it's just Patton's wool. They're worsted weight wool. I had it in stash. And I think that when I knit these, I think that you knit these on like 3.75 millimeter needles. And it was really thick and really hard on my hands. Like, my hands would cramp working on these. I couldn't really work on them for a long time. And because the stitches were twisted, there was kind of even more tension when I was making them. Like, it was a lot. And the whole back of the mitten is purled, and a lot of the front of the mitten is purled, and purling is just a little bit more difficult on my hands than knit stitches are. So they took me a long time to make because I had to take a lot of breaks. I couldn't really consistently work on them. I couldn't really be monogamous ever with them. Like, I could only go 30, 45 minutes working on them until my hands would start to hurt and I would have to put them down. But I wear these constantly. I wear these basically every morning in the winter, going to school, going to work. They're great. And I think they're really pretty. Like, they're basic and they match everything because I made them in the white. But I think that the little stitch pattern really, like, they're very feminine, which I like. They go really nicely with when I wear, like, my wool skirts to school. They look really nice with, like, all of my nice warm stuff. So they're lovely. I really, really love them. I'll probably end up making another pair when these wear out. I don't feel like I need more than one pair of these. Like, I probably won't make another pair until I have to get rid of these. I want to make a couple more pairs of mittens next year. But I don't think that they'll be this particular pattern because it's so nice in the white. I don't think I need another pair in another color, you know? But yeah, they've held up pretty well. They've had extensive wear. Like, they've been used... Like, I want to say they've been used more than anything else that I've made this year. And they have gotten a little bit pilly, especially around the thumbs. I don't know if you can see that, but there are a lot of these little pill balls. I probably need to go over it with a shaver and take it down. But it's held up really well for being, like, pretty cheap, bought at Joann's in 2019 stash yarn. Like, I'm pretty impressed with how it's worn. And I think that also has to do with how tight the fabric ended up being because of my yarn choice. Like, the original sample of these mitts was knit in Nuuden, which is an unspun Swedish wool, so I chose something completely different. They would have been a lot airier and warmer had I chosen Nuuden, but, like, I could not be happier with how they turned out. So, there's those. They're great. I love them. I highly recommend the pattern. Like, they're a perfect basic mitten for me. Like, they're a lovely elevated basic. They go with everything. and I love the way that they look with everything. So, I've worn these a ton, and these are the only mittens that I made last year. And then we have socks. I don't have all of my socks with me physically right now. I actually have 2 pairs in the wash right now that I made this year, but I'll put photos up on the screen. I'll like edit in a picture or something. So I made 3 pairs of socks this year. Most of them were over the summer because in Colorado it gets hot in the summer and I don't have air conditioning. So it's basically impossible for me to work on anything big and woolly and any garment anything in the summer because it makes you want to die having that much wool on your lap when it's, 95 degrees. So there are lots of socks. And I actually need to make more because I found that I'm going through them so much. But I made, here, I have one single sock that I haven't made the pair to yet. I have this spring sock that I started in like March. At least like 3 times a year, I discover that I'm either going to an event or I have a long car ride or I'm going to something where there will be lots of time for me to knit and I don't have a good travel project. And this came about in one of those times. I just grabbed some sock yarn and my sock needles, which is typically what I do when I need something little to knit and that I can bring. And I made this little baby sock. It's just a bunch of my scraps and stash. The orange is crafted outside the box in pumpkin on her sock nylon base. The blue and speckly, pretty, awesome one is Tiffany from, oh my gosh, what is that yarn called? I will pop it up on the screen. But her yarn is awesome. I love her color decisions. I already have a pair of socks made out of this yarn by themselves, but it's a great yarn. And then I striped it with just some drops Nepal, just a white color that I had, because I wasn't sure I'd have enough for 2 pairs of socks. It's just an ankle length. I like most of my socks ankle length, especially if they're for summer or for spring. And yeah, I haven't made the pair to this yet. It's probably the next sock I cast on, just because it ended up being kind of a bad travel sock because I used 3 yarns to make it. So in order to bring it anywhere, I had to bring 2 skeins, and it's just not the most practical thing when you're traveling, and that's mostly what my socks are, my travel project. So I'm sure that another one of these will be made eventually, probably this spring when I get really excited to start wearing lots of colors again. But for right now, it's just kind of hanging out in my yarn closet. And then the second pair of socks I made, I'll put a picture on the screen because they're in my washer, are my electric slide socks that I made the pattern for this summer. I'm hoping I have to make a couple more sizes. I want to make sure that I have my grading correct, and make another pair, but I really, really like them. I think they turned out awesome. And hopefully the testing for that is going to go out late February, once I make the other sample and get the pattern graded and edited. But hopefully those will get tested and those will go out. I'm hoping that they get tested late February and they can come out late March-ish, so people can make them for spring and summer. But they're a super cool pair of socks. I really, really, really like them. The yarn for that was more of the same black on the cuffs and the toes, which is Robin from Just a Girl and Her Dog and the Yak Base. And then the neon orange and yellow and green color for that. Oh, I don't remember the yarn dyer name. I'll pop it up on the screen. But it's an awesome yarn, and I got it from one of my friends on Instagram. Her name is Christy. And she had a bunch of it and just sent it to me because she wasn't going to use it. And I've used it for a bunch of my projects this year. I think it's an awesome base. I think it's a great yarn. The color is really fun. And they're really fun socks. I really like the way they fit. So I'll be testing those. Those will be going out later. And then these were the socks I made next. And these are my plume socks by Carolyn Bley. I really, really love them. I will probably end up making a couple more pairs of them. I think they're really elegant and really pretty. And they were super, super fun to make. This was a test knit that I did during August. And I cranked these out in like 2 weeks. And I really, really love the way that they turned out. I do not remember the yarn for these. I'll pop it up on the screen. I wish that I had made them a little bit smaller. I have a rather loose sock gauge for some reason. I use zeros, US zeros to knit my socks, and I still have like a 6 stitch per inch gauge, which is pretty high for most people, and I literally can't get needles littler than the ones that I currently have. Like, not easily, at least. So they're a little bit big on me because they're 64 stitches, and I typically go for like a 60 or a 58 stitch sock. So they're a little bit baggy on the heel, which is okay. This was a test knit, so I kind of had to, I didn't want to modify the stitch count for the heel and for everything, because, you know, it's a test. That's the point, is to get accurate measurements. So they are a tad bit big on me. It's not that big of a deal. I wear them mostly as boot socks, so the fact that they're baggy is kind of an advantage in that. But yeah, worn the crap out of these. So far, they've held up pretty well. You can see there's a good amount of wear on the heels, a good amount of wear on the bottom of the toes. Nothing that needs mending yet. They haven't pilled basically at all, which is pretty crazy to me. However, I am going to rag on this yellow yarn. I don't remember what it is. I'll put it up. But it was like one of the most difficult yarns I've ever worked with. It was incredibly splitty. And I really, really struggled to, especially on the heel, I really, really struggled to get it to hold up. Like, it felt very thin. It felt very, like, it's almost like it was very loosely plied. And it hasn't held up great so far as it goes. So I wouldn't recommend it for socks, personally. I found it really difficult to work with. But it is really pretty, and I really like the color choices that I made for this sock. But yeah, so these are great. I wear them all the time. And then I made another pair of socks. I made my Broncos socks, which are just pretty vanilla afterthought heel socks that I made because I needed a travel project. I don't have them with me. They're in my washer, but I'll pop a picture up on the screen. They are awesome. I really like the fit of them. I hadn't done I mostly like doing heel flap and gusset heels. I find they fit me really well, and I like doing the texture on the heel flap. It's fun. But I wanted to try an afterthought heel because I wanted to see if it fit me better. They fit me really well on the heel, but I don't love the construction. Like, I don't love actually making it. And I think I would rather have a slightly less well-fitting heel and get to do the construction that I love. So I'll probably be sticking with heel flaps and gussets, but it was a fun experiment. I used more of Robin's yarn, more Just a Girl and Her Dog yarn for the blue on that. That's her, I think that's her 2-ply sock base, and that's the color Midnight. It's one of my favorite yarns I've ever worked with. I think it's such a pretty color. And then the orange is the same orange as I used for this one. It's Craft Outside the Box Pumpkin. And I used that for the heel and the toe and the cuff. And those are lovely. They're great. They're ankle socks again, so I'll be able to wear them year round. And they're great. I get to wear them to my Broncos games and with my jerseys and everything and have matching socks. It's super fun. My spring break cowl, which is my personal pattern that I released last spring. It's awesome. I really like it. I wear it all the time. It is actually in my car right now because I keep it in there as a layer to bring with me to places. But it's great. It fits me really well. I really love it. I love the big chunky cable on it. And then I made a shawl that is actually, okay, but I think we're onto the garments. So let's get to that. I think I'm going to start with my summer tank tops, and then I will go into my sweaters and cardigans and all of that. So the first tank top I tried to make this summer is this Lazy Daisy crop. Here, it's inside out, so let me flip her. This Lazy Daisy crop. And it did not end up working out very well for me. So I really, really like the length of it. I really like the color. And I like little daisies. But for some reason, it fits me really poorly. Like, everything about where the straps are placed is wrong. This is the space I have for my underarm, and it's too tight across my underarms. And then this neck is way too wide on me. Like, it ends up being like this, like super gappy, and not right. And I don't like it. So I ended up finishing it, and then I was really sad that I couldn't wear it. So I didn't actually do anything with it yet. So this summer, I'm hoping to take these I-cord straps off, just rip them back, which will be easy because it's a bottom-up pattern. So I'm just going to rip these straps out and put them in a different place. I'll probably move these straps in the front closer together so the neckline is more like this and flatter against my chest so it's not gapping. That'll give me more room for my underarms, and then I'll leave the back placement where it is because it actually creates this really cute little like gapped keyhole neckline the way I have it, and I don't hate that part of it. So I'm hoping that once I redo the placement, this will get wear, but so far it's been sitting in my closet waiting for me to have the motivation to rip it back and figure out how to get the placement correct. I don't know if it was a me issue or if it was a pattern issue. I haven't seen anybody else making this pattern and having this problem. So I feel like either I miscounted or I misunderstood part of the pattern. But yeah, it really does not fit me well at all. And it's not wearable. Like, it's just not. I can't wear it. It's awkward. So my hope is that I move the straps, and then it'll be a really great little crop top to wear with all of my little skirts. That's what I made it for, is to go with all of my super high-waisted skirts and high-waisted shorts over the summer. So it hits me great. It hits me right below my natural waist. It'll not leave a gap. I don't like wearing actual cropped shirts. It should hit me right where my skirts and my pants fall, so it'll be perfect. But yeah, so it'll have to go back to the drawing board and get some more placement work done on it because I really don't like where it sits as of right now. So there's that. And then the other tank top that I made this year that does fit me and fits me really well is my Snakes and Ladders tank by Oops and Loops. And I really, really love this tank top. I love everything about it. I love the yarn that I used. I love the color. I love the fit of it. I think it looks great on me. And it's light enough that I can actually wear it, which is a problem that I've had in the past with tank tops. Even though it's a worsted DK weight pattern, I can actually wear it. And it didn't take me forever to make. So it fits me really, really well. I really like it. I'm hoping to get more pictures of me actually wearing it on my Instagram this year, because I don't think I have one up of me wearing it and modeling it. I wish I had made it a little bit smaller. I find that it's really boxy here. The neckline fits me well, and it comes in right where I want it to. And it fits me really well on my chest, across my bust to here, and then I feel like the body is a little bit too big. It gets a little bit too loose there. So if I were to make it again, I think I would probably go down a size. I think I made the second smallest size instead of the smallest size, which is a problem that I almost always do. I almost always go one size up than I should, one size higher than I should. So I think if I made it again, I would go down. But yeah, I really like it. Really love this yarn. This is Lion brand, not their 24/7 cotton, it's their other cotton. It's their Pima cotton. It's Lion brand Pima cotton. And I really, really recommend it. It's a great yarn. It's super, super soft. It's not super drying, which I found to be a big problem when working with cotton in the past. It actually feels very smooth, and it's totally workable. And the stick definition is great. if you look at it. It's held up pretty well. It's gotten a little bit fuzzy. I'll probably have to go over it with a depiler before I wear it next season. And it definitely has to get washed a lot because it's cotton and it's not wool. But yeah, 100% recommend. It's a great pattern. I really recommend checking it out if you haven't yet. Especially if you have a smaller bust like I do. I feel like it's very flattering. And it fits, and it's like the way that it fits is very nice. I found that a lot of tank tops, I have a lot of gapping at the bust because I have a pretty small bust in relation to my shoulders. And I don't have any gapping with this pattern. So yeah, totally recommend it. Super cute. I wear it all the time. And then that's the tank tops I made this year. Hello, this is Becca from the future. As you can tell, I'm not wearing the same thing. I realized while I was editing that I completely forgot to go over all of the pullover sweaters that I made. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I made 3 pullovers this year, all of which I love dearly. The first one that I completed is this guy. This is my Felix, designed by Amy Christophers. I knit it in a undyed natural wool by, I think it was Cascade, but it'll be on the screen like everything else. And this I completed early January of last year, so it's been around for almost a whole year now. I have worn the bejeepers out of it. Like, I have worn this sweater so much. This sweater is what inspired me to join Instagram, because I loved it so much that I wanted to start posting it, which has been amazing. But yeah, it's worn really well. I really like the fit. It's kind of like a wide boat neckline on me. It hits me pretty far off my shoulders, which I like. It has the Felix has a really cute lace raglan detail, if you can see that. And I really, really like it. I think it's really cute. You can't see it all that well in the yarn that I chose, but I think it's a nice, subtle little detail that makes it a little bit more feminine with the super boxy fit. I really like the way this fits on me. Like, I have no complaints. I made the sleeves a little bit long so I could cuff them. Yeah. Overall, this is just an awesome sweater, and I'm so happy that I made it and I've gotten to wear it this year. I'm so happy it's held up so well. There's almost no pilling. Well, there's some pilling. Like, you can see on the sleeves here, there's a good amount of fiber coming off, especially at the underarm. But overall, it's worn really well for the, like, I've probably worn this 50 times this year. So it's worn really, really well given the amount of, like, workhorse wear it's gotten. And then the second sweater that I made this year was this guy. This is my very V-neck raglan designed by Jessie Made. I knit this in Knit Picks Aloft Mohair, their hand-painted version, which I think is awesome, by the way. Like, I don't know why nobody talks about Knit Picks Mohair. It's super soft. It's worn really well. The hand painting is gorgeous. Like, the color of this, like, come on. That's so cool. Like, it's so pretty. I don't know why nobody talks about it. But anyway, it's a great mohair in my opinion. I got it on sale, which made it really affordable for me. It's a little bit out of my price range if it's not on sale, but it was. So, highly recommend that. This is like my favorite date night dress up sweater ever. I've worn it a ton over the winter, layered with like a high neck white t-shirt underneath of it is really cute. It gets a ton of wear in the spring. It gets a little bit of wear in the fall. I'm usually leaning more towards like warmer, more fall colors by the time fall rolls around. So it doesn't get as much wear then, but I could wear it. Like, it's perfectly weather appropriate. I used 2 strands of the Aloft mohair, so it's not super transparent, like it's wearable for me. You can see, like, there's some transparency there, but as long as I wear, like, a skin tone bra underneath of it, It's not scandalous in any way. I really like where the v-neck hits on me. I actually knit this ribbing longer than the pattern suggested because I knew it was going to be too deep of a v-neck if I didn't. It hits me basically perfectly. Like, it's very flattering. It's very feminine. It's not so low cut that I feel awkward wearing it. And I love the way it fits. I really like that these sleeves don't taper. Like, it's just the same sleeve knit all the way through to the ribbing. And I actually really like that about this sweater. I need to knit more sweaters without a tapered sleeve or without a balloon sleeve, because I love the way that this like floats and fits and is very romantic. I finished this, I think in, I'm gonna say it was late June of this year, but I'm not sure. But it's worn incredibly well. Like, this looks brand new. I haven't had to do anything to it except wash it and block it, because mohair tends to get kind of wrinkly. Like you can see on the bottom here, there's a bit of creasing from having it folded in my dresser. But it's not that big of a deal. Give it a quick steam block or get it a little bit wet and stretch it out and it's fine. But yeah, super romantic, super feminine. I really, really like this sweater. Yeah, like 10 out of 10. I love Jessie Maid's patterns. She's such a gifted designer. And my last sweater of the year, I just finished, is my Ranunculus by Midori Hirose Knits. I really love the way that this sweater turned out in particular. It was really surprising. So I cast this on in, I think, May of this year, and I didn't finish it until this month. It went on hold over the summer because it was so hot to work on. But I cast this on mostly on a whim because I was seeing so many people on my Instagram knit this pattern, and I was curious. I wanted to see what all the hype was about. And I really assumed it wasn't going to fit me well. As I've mentioned, I have a really small upper body, I have a really small bust size, and at the time that I cast this on, this pattern only came in one size. They've since increased their size range to be more size inclusive, but at the time it was only one size, and I was sure that it was going to look like a box or a bag or something. It would fit me odd, and it doesn't. It fits me really, really well, way better than I imagined it would. Which was a really fun surprise. Like, I did not assume that this was going to look good on me, and it does. It looks better than good on me. Which is nice. I enjoy making things that fit well. But yeah, I made this out of one strand of Cloudborne alpaca and one strand of drops mohair. Which is why I had to put it down over the summer, because it was so hot to work on. Like, I was just sitting there and I couldn't handle it touching me. Like, it was just not a possibility. So I put it on hold. I picked it back up at the beginning of November this year, I think, and finished it at the beginning of December. I ended up doing a half sleeve modification on the pattern, just knit only halfway. Did a couple of decrease round, did I think one decrease round for the ribbing, and then knit the ribbing. It was like the best modification I could have made. A, because I was really tired of knitting the sweater and wanted to be done, and I did not want to do full sleeves. And two, because the yarn that I picked is so warm. Like, an alpaca mohair mix is not a, like, it's not a cool yarn for sure. So doing the half sleeves makes it so that way it's definitely wearable. Like, I don't get hot in this. I think I would if it were full sleeved. I especially would if it were full sleeved and balloon sleeved, like the pattern wants you to do. Yeah, I think that would be way too much fabric on me. But the half sleeves and the slightly skinnier sleeves makes it so that way it's a lot more wearable. I find this yarn combination to be really soft. I don't find it itchy at all. But I am not a super itchy inclined person. I think that if you did have sensitive skin, this would definitely irritate you. But it doesn't bother me at all. I find it quite soft, actually. I find most things knit with mohair to be totally comfortable. I actually add mohair to things I think will be itchy, because it'll, for me, bring the softness up. But yeah, this fits me really well. It's super feminine. It's been a great holiday party sweater for me this December. I've worn it to a bunch of different events that I needed to dress up for. Thrown on a red skirt or a brown skirt. Looks great. pair of heels, solid. And you get to flex your knitting skills to everybody at your various work Halloween parties. It's great. But yeah, I really enjoyed knitting this. I think I would do it again. I've thought about making another one in like a super woolly wool, like a Nuaden or a Plutolopi. But I'm worried that with a more structured yarn, the pattern will fit oddly on me. The reason that this fits me so well, or at least one of the reasons that it fits me so well, is because it's so drapey. And I'm worried that if I do something more structured, it'll be like oddly bunched, especially around my bust. So we'll have to kind of see where that goes. I might make another one, I might not, I might just be happy with this. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Definitely like see what the hype is about for yourself, because it was really fun to make. It's really flattering, it's really cute, I really like it. Yeah, all of the good things. And then we have our last category of the cardigans that I made this year. So I'm gonna go chronologically again. The first cardigan I made this year is this guy. He is 15 pounds. This is my Noniamo cardigan by Goodnight Day. I made this at the beginning of the year. It's awesome. I'm not gonna lie, this piece doesn't get a huge amount of wear from me just because it's difficult to layer with. Like I can't really take it off and put it in my bag or tie it around my waist or anything. Like once it's on, I'm kind of committed to keeping it on, you know? So it doesn't get a huge amount of wear, but it is a really fun piece for when I do wear it. I used, I think it's a Joanne specific yarn, K+C Nordic yarn for it. I ended up using a lot of yarn. Like it did not go very far. I'm honestly not sure I recommend it for this pattern because it was really heavy for the amount that you got per ball. And I think I ended up using like 12 or 13 balls of yarn for this project. But yeah, this is a really, really fun pattern. I really enjoyed well, I actually did enjoy making it. I hated making this pattern, actually. It was really hard on my hands to work on. It uses a US 19. It's a 15 millimeter needle. And it was rough on my hands. But yeah, it's really fun to wear. It's a big statement piece. I really like wearing it with just like a really simple long sleeve underneath of it and letting it show off its chunky glory. But yeah, I quite like this piece. I wish it got more wear. It's actually, I should probably try to wear it more often than I do. It's just a little bit difficult because of how heavy it ended up being. Because it's also super warm, so I can get kind of hot in it, and then I'm hot and I can't take it off because it's so big, like there's nowhere to put it. So, but yeah, I quite like this cardigan. It is a little bit more cropped than I would like it to be, which also makes it a little bit hard to wear. I wish it was a little bit longer. I feel like I would get more use out of it that way. But yeah, I quite like it. It's a fun pattern if you're looking for like a super quick knit and a super chunky like jacket pattern. I really, really, really recommend. I really recommend it. It's a fun knit for sure. And then we have my pride and joy. This is my Elmer cardigan, designed by Knitter Sisters. And this cardigan took me almost 4.5 months to make, and I was working on it quite monogamously. Okay. This is a colorwork, textured, knit flat, seamed cardigan. I learned so many new things making this. This was my first bottom-up sweater construction that I'd ever done. This was my first sweater knit flat. This was my first, this was my first sweater knit flat. I guess the Nanny Amo cardigan was also knit flat, but that was a slightly different situation because this was my first time doing color work flat, and that was an experience for sure. But yeah, so the way that you make it is you start at the bottom here, you cast on at the ribbing. You start this checkered color work and texture pattern, so you switch the textures every other row and you switch the colors every 6 rows. So you have like these purl bump squares and these stockinette squares. It's pretty intricate and it took me a really long time, but I really love it. It doesn't get as much wear as I wish it did yet. It's pretty new. I finished it at the beginning of November, I think. I think it was the beginning of November. It might have been the end of October. I don't know. But just because of the colors I chose, I love the colors that I picked. Like, it's a super cotton candy, fluffy, lovely cardigan. I used Drops Air in 5 different colors. I don't remember what all 5 of the colors were called, but I'll put it up there. And I'm super happy with the colors that I picked, and I really love the way that it turned out. But because it's such a busy cardigan, it doesn't work well as an actual cardigan. It works much better buttoned up all the way and worn more as a sweater. Just because I don't really own anything that's a neutral in any of these colors. Like, I don't own a plain long sleeve shirt in any of these colors, you know? So it doesn't work great as like a cardigan to be worn over things, but that's okay because it works great as a statement piece on its own. It's tremendously warm. I actually really love this yarn. I did not think I was gonna like it this much, but I'm already like thinking about all of the sweaters that I want to make with it once I'm off of my yarn ban and money's a little bit less tight. But yeah, I really like the way that this turned out. I wear it all the time. Not as often as I wish I did, but I still wear it by itself pretty often. And so far it's held up well. I haven't been done with it for a long time yet, so I can't really speak to the long-term wear. I feel like it'll wear pretty well. I think it'll get pilly. The Drops Air it's a core spun yarn, so it's like a blown fiber type thing, so it's kind of like this fiber inside of this mesh, which is really interesting. I had never seen that before. But I just have a feeling that it's gonna pill because it's not really spun. Like, there aren't plies to it. So it'll probably pill pretty solidly on the arms and under the arms and all of that, but I'm okay with that. I really love the way that it turned out. I'm glad that it's done, because this was such a difficult project for me. Like, doing all of the color work in the round and seaming everything together and knitting it flat and having to do color work flat was awful. Like, it was gross. I'm not sure that I will be doing that again. Just because it was really difficult for me to keep up with, and my tension is different on my purl rows, so it took me a long time. But one of the coolest things about this cardigan, let me unbutton it again after I just buttoned it all the way back up. My floats are really cool. So as you can see here, like, those floats are beautiful. And as I'm sure you can tell, like, this is super warm. It's basically double layered fabric, because I have these 6-stitch floats all across the entire sweater. And I think that they'll actually felt pretty nicely to the actual outside fabric. I haven't had any problems with them getting stuck on anything, even though they're kind of longish floats. They've held up pretty well. But yeah, so that is the Elmer cardigan. I love it. And then we have one last finished object for 2022. And that would be my balloon cardigan by Petite Knit. So I said the Elmer cardigan is my pride and joy, and it kind of is, because it's the most complicated pattern I've ever done. Oh, and that was a test knit, by the way. I forgot to say that. The Elmer cardigan was a test knit for Knitter Sisters. And that is kind of my pride and joy, because it was a really, really difficult pattern. And it took me a long time to like kind of figure out what I was doing with it. But this is by far my favorite item that I've made, because I can wear it with everything. This is my balloon cardigan by Petite Knit, as I said. It's this really beautiful white cardigan. I knit it in Nuuden unspun yarn. And I love everything about it. It's incredibly light. It's incredibly warm. It has these massive balloon sleeves. I knit this with Nuuden held single, which was intense. So the thing with unspun yarn is that when you're tensioning it, it can just kind of come apart and become very thin. And it took me a while to figure out how to tension. Like, if you look in, especially like higher up in some spots on the sweater, like right here, you can see there's kind of like this whole patch right here where the yarn is pretty thin. I was knitting with it held single, which gave it less structural integrity. And it was basically fingering weight yarn, knit on 4mm and 3.75mm needles. And it took me forever, is what I'm trying to get at. It took me so long to make this cardigan. I have been working on it since, I think, June? Early June? And I did not finish it until late November. And I have been working on it. It went on a bit of a hiatus over the summer, as most of my sweater projects did. But I worked on it very consistently, and through the fall and through the winter so far and through late summer. But yeah, I'm really glad that it's done. It's gotten a ton of wear already. It's a really great layer to put on underneath of my jackets when I'm going to school. It gives me a lot of extra warmth, and it's little enough. Like it's a lot of fabric, especially with how big these sleeves are. Like, you can see, so that's the cuff and that's the sleeve. Like, there's almost as much sleeve fabric as there is body fabric. So while it is a lot of fabric, because it's in Nuuden, I think it compacts really small, and I can kind of shove it in my bag and not worry about it, and it just kind of stays there and is happy, and then I can pull it back out later. But yeah, I really love the way this fits. I modified the pattern. I did these lace increases on the raglan, just because I wanted it to be a basic, but I wanted a little bit of interest in it, and it was also because I thought that it would be really pretty in this yarn. I thought that it would be nice to give it a little bit of a place to like show off, I guess, if that makes sense. But yeah, so I just did a yarn over increase instead of a make one left, make one right increase. I just did yarn over, knit one, yarn over. And yeah, I think it's really pretty. I think it adds a little bit of interest. I think it's perfect. And then I picked out these really cute little like button, like garden buttons that I found on Etsy, and I really, really like them. I was going back and forth between a couple of my buttons, and I'm really glad I chose those ones because I think they're really beautiful. But yeah, this is gonna get a ton of wear, basically in perpetuity. It'll go over lots of my dresses in the spring when it's a little bit too cold to wear them by themselves, because that's what I had originally made it for, was going over my dresses. It's gotten a ton of wear this winter, just going on top of things that I already own as a layer. It's been great over skirts. It's been great over jeans. It's been great when I'm cold and in my pajamas. Like, it's gotten a huge amount of wear from me. So yeah, 10 out of 10 recommend. I will be definitely making stuff with this yarn in the future. I actually have 4 cakes of Vanessa in my yarn closet right now, which is like a dark pink, almost purpley yarn that I'm really excited to do something with. I haven't decided what it's going to be yet. I have some of this white left over, so it might be a colorwork sweater, but I haven't decided. how much I would wear it. Like, I feel like a lot of the pieces I made this year were very colorful and very statement pieces. And I kind of want to make more basics like this. Like, I feel like I could use a couple of single color sweaters and a couple of single color cardigans. And yeah. So we'll kind of see. But I'm really happy with this. I would certainly knit it again. It's a little bit bigger on me than I wish it was. My gauge ended up being a little bit big. And even though I made the extra small petite knit, things tend to come out a little bit big on me. So I wish it was a little bit more tightly fit in the body. Like, I'm not upset about the sleeves, because the sleeves are obviously meant to be these big dramatic balloon sleeves. But the body is a little bit looser than I wish it was, and I wish it... Maybe if I had done a bit of waist shaping, it would have fit me a little bit better. But I'm still super happy with it and really happy with the way it turned out, so. But yeah, I think that's everything that I made in 2022. I hope this was enjoyable. I'm not quite sure how this whole YouTube thing works yet. I'm kind of just copying a bunch of other people that I like watching on YouTube. But yeah, I really enjoyed making all of it, and I hope that this was a fun little video to put on while you were doing some knitting or some laundry or some dishes, which is when I like to put on my knitting podcasts. But yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you watched this far, I really appreciate it. Consider giving me a like and a comment and a subscribe as you do on the YouTube. And you can find me anywhere else on various knitting platforms as @Sweetheartknits. I'm that on Instagram and Ravelry and Etsy. I'll have that linked in the description box. But yeah, go find me over there if you watch this far into the video, and you can see all of my pretty pictures of all of these projects, because I'm sure that you couldn't see the glory of all of them this close up on a camera. Okay, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate it, and have a lovely day doing your crafting. Get a cup of something warm, put on something else, enjoy your time. Thank you. Goodbye.